In the world of Kodama, director Tang introduces us to a universe where tradition meets technology, as samurai dressed in tactical SWAT gear travel between dimensions on a rescue mission. Racking up the views and comments on our YouTube channel. If you're yet to watch the film, here's a glimpse of what you can expect.
Our mission is to make entry, establish contact with teams 3-1 and 3-2, and then immediately extract. Nakamura should have cleared out all the yokai by now.
In this episode of Short Films Explained, we're joined by Tang himself to break down the film and uncover what's got you all so excited about Kodama. Okay, so let's start with our first question from YouTube commenter FoChung5267. And he describes the premise of Kodama as samurai in SWAT fighting against dark evil to defend humanity. Rolling Boy calls your film Spiritual SWAT Samurais, and Lemon Sponge One says it's samurai swordplay without the cheese. Now, these are all interesting summaries of your film, but how would you go about pitching Kodama to someone who hasn't seen it?
I love that he said without the cheese, because I genuinely felt like there was a lack of live action representations of yokai. If I had to describe Kodama, specifically the short film, I would say it's a film about this guy named Arthur, who's a member of an elite SWAT samurai team who enters spirit world full of vengeful yokai in order to rescue his father. So it's a rescue mission, a supernatural rescue mission.
Those are a lot of the things that the YouTube commenters are really interested in. Paris Riviera 1365, she praises the blend of technology and Japanese mythology in your short, where Robert YV2YJ says that Kodama reminded him of Chinese movies such as Warriors of Zoo and Mr. Vampire. Now, for me personally, I'm really fascinated by the mix of genres on show in your film. And I'd love to know a bit more about the origins of the idea and the influences behind both the narrative and the aesthetic.
I think this all kind of stems back to 2020, where I was spending a lot of time trying to learn Blender. Blender kind of opened my mind to the possibilities of visual effects, and I had a very extreme interest in Japanese folklore. It all really honestly started from like the night vision goggles being the ornamentation on the top of the samurai helmet. And then I just kind of deep dive that stuff. I am a big fan of wuxia cinema and like the floaty, wire work type choreography, but I'm also a big fan of a lot of the tactical choreography you see in like a Sicario or like the opening of Tenet. I just had a desire to put them all together and see if they could live in the same world.
You mentioned the choreography, and again, that's another thing that people seem to love. So we've got David G5898 who comments on the great fight choreography in the film. Commenter Dad and Thad describes it as really innovative, and another commenter, the infamous Dope, says that the final fight in the short is simply the best action sequence I've seen in a very long time, which is high praise. Can you provide a little insight into how you made them feel so energetic and immersive?
Yes, I have to thank Joseph Lay and Jay Kwan for this. They were the action designers on this film. They brought on a wire rigger and a team of stunt people that were fantastic. To preface this, I did previs the entire movie in CG. Every shot was accounted for in the previs except for the climactic fight scene. I put a kind of placeholder that stated like, this is where the fight needs to begin and this is where the fight has to end. And I want you to hit these beats along the way, and you can embellish and, ebb and flow within that framework as much as you'd like. And so they did that, and they did a fantastic job.
And again, just to go back to the armor. So we've got commenters who describe it as looking badass. And then we've got other commenters who are commenting on some of the other production design, like the portals, and how they really like seeing them as the freestanding doors. For me, I think in general, Kodama stands out for its exceptional production design. So I really want to know how much time and attention went into kind of the universe building to make it all feel believable.
My intention behind the production design and the world was the same as the SWAT samurai. The world as half man-made, half nature, with the industrial, like harshly man-made stuff. We pushed our budget to the max as far as what we could do in camera. And wherever our budget kind of showed its seams, I would do set extensions in post.
And one of the things that I really like about the YouTube comments is that even though Kodama is this kind of action film, there's a lot going on in terms of the universe. There's still a lot of people who are really impressed with the cast. You know, one of the commenters, Greg De Silva 915, talking about how much they appreciate the human interaction between the actors, something they weren't expecting to see in this kind of film, while another recognized your lead actor from other roles that he's been in. So, I mean, behind all the impressive costumes and effects work, you've obviously got an impressive cast. So how did you work with them to get the best from their performances?
I knew Brandon through a variety of films that he's been in, obviously, and I felt like he had a really great subtlety to his work. That in combination with being a martial artist, I think it added a lot to the role. I've worked with Justin a few times before, and I've always loved working with him. He always has a commanding presence. As far as working with them on set, the thing about Kodama, though, was that a lot of it is very technical. There's a lot of like clearing rooms, there's a lot of stunt work, and that was the bulk of the shoot. The very brief moments in which we had like room to play for the actors, we shot multicam. Like I had two cameras going and we'd cross cover it and I'd let them kind of riff a little bit. And I felt like that was a really good place to put the actors, environment to put the actors and have them feel like they could do whatever they needed.
And when it comes to the actors and the dialogue in the film, the only kind of criticism or thing that some of the commenters have picked up from YouTube is they said they would have wished to see the film in the Japanese language. Was that ever something that crossed your mind in production?
The tricky thing about this is that the world building and the time that we have to world build in this short was so limited. In my mind, the idea or the implication was that this is a very vast reaching network of SWAT samurai, and that this was like the American unit dealing with yokai that have popped up in the US. There was an intention early on to maybe perhaps have some people speaking Japanese and some people responding in English. It's just assumed that they understand each other. I do think that that's an intention that I want to bring forth in the future for Kodama.
Okay, great. So that's obviously brings us on to our next question really nicely. There's obviously more in the world of Kodama that you're thinking about. From the YouTube comments, I can say there's a lot of demand to see more from this world. So do you have plans to expand the world of Kodama in the future?
Absolutely, dude. I submitted it to a film. I submitted to South by, and to my surprise, even though it was a work in progress cut, it got in. During that time, I had put out a trailer, and it got passed around through the back channels of UTA and a few other places. I had a meeting with UTA, and they brought me on. And we went out to the market to find people who were interested. One of those people who raised their hands was the Russo brothers. We are currently turning it into a feature. We're developing it right now, and I'll be directing it. Yeah, and so it is a dream come true for as far as short films go. Like proving the concept and eventually turning it into a full-fledged feature is. It is the dream, and I pinch myself every day to the idea that this actually kind of panned out exactly the way I was hoping.
That's exciting. That's exciting to hear. I mean, you know, obviously, the moment people saw it, they were like they wanted more from this universe, and obviously, it's good to know that the people who have the money to make these things happen agreed. People always say, you know, short film doesn't make any money. It's not about money. It's about the opportunities it opens. And obviously, you know, it was definitely the case with you and Kodama. So it's great to hear that story. And we can't wait to see what the feature brings. You know, if it's as good as the short, it's going to be crazy exciting to see.